I am the only daughter of the wealthiest man in Jiangnan. My father is unrivaled in riches. To find a worthy son-in-law, I chose to select a groom by tossing the embroidered ball. Only the finest young men in Jiangnan were allowed to participate. Yet on the very day of my selection, the Marquis arrived in Jiangnan with his so-called time-traveling woman, Bai Yangling, just because that self-proclaimed trendy time-traveling woman thought it would be fun. She had the Marquis snatch the embroidered ball and pass it around for his brothers to play with. After everyone had their fill of amusement, no one wanted the ball anymore, so they tossed it to a beggar by the roadside. Of course, I refused and immediately demanded a redo of the toss. Meanwhile, the time-traveling woman seized the moment to promote her slogan of equality for all, winning herself a wave of praise. The Marquis was utterly infatuated with the time-traveling woman, and to please her, he abused his power to force me into marriage with a beggar. My family home was then invaded by beggars who squandered all our wealth, and I was left to freeze to death in the bitter cold of December. This lifetime, since the heavens have granted me rebirth, I shall repay vengeance with vengeance, and grievance with grievance. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. In my past life, during the freezing winter, I lay alone on my deathbed. There wasn't even a maidservant by my side. All had been sold off by Wang Ergu. We had only been married for a short while, yet he had the audacity to poison and kill my father. When I went to report it to the authorities, they dared not intervene because of the Marquis's power. In the end, all of our family's property fell into the hands of Wang Ergu. Once Wang Ergu gained power, he spent his days frequenting gambling dens and brothels. Within just a few months, the family's wealth was completely squandered. For some reason, this year's winter was dozens of times colder than previous years. Without charcoal, survival was impossible. I begged Wang Ergu to stop gambling, to save some money for coal. To my surprise, Wang Ergu shoved me away, glaring at me with disgust. How else am I supposed to double my money if I don't gamble? Stupid woman, always nagging, long hair, short sight, can't even bear a child. When I get back, I'll sell you to a brothel. With that money, I'll surely turn my luck around. I stared at Wang Ergu in disbelief. This beast. I dragged my sick body out of bed and frantically grappled with him in a fight. Wang Ergu shoved me away, and my head hit the wall, knocking me unconscious. Damn bitch, what bad luck. By the time I woke up, my whole body was frozen stiff, and I no longer had the strength to crawl back to bed. And so, in the bitter cold of winter, I, the only daughter of the wealthiest family in Jiangnan, ended up freezing to death. Heaven must have taken pity on me, for when I regained consciousness, I found myself reborn on the very day of the embroidered ball toss. I stared blankly at the embroidered ball in my hands, my eyes welling up with tears. With a cold, resolute laugh, I immediately summoned my personal maid, Xiao Huan. Go lure someone over. She's right there. Be sneaky about it. Don't make it too obvious. Xiao Huan froze for a moment. Though she didn't understand why I was giving such instructions, she immediately obeyed and went ahead. I watched Xiao Huan's retreating figure and let out a soft sigh. In my past life, Xiao Huan had been sold by Wang Ergu to a brothel. I'd secretly taken all my savings to rescue her. But that very night Xiao Huan hanged herself. They say when she died, her body was covered in dense whip marks, done by a pack of beasts. Utterly revolting. I swear, in this lifetime, I will never let Xiao Huan suffer such a fate again. I stood on the second floor, gazing down below. Those who could enter the estate were either scholars from Jiangnan with official titles or young men from equally wealthy and respectable families. Not a single one is unexceptional. Perhaps in the future, my husband may not love me, but they will surely respect me. What I seek is precisely this respect, and with it, I can surely live out my life in happiness. Yet, on the most important day of my life, I encountered this vile pair of scoundrels. At the center of the scene, Bai Yangling, disguised as a man, was clinging to the Marquis's arm, laughing and flirting coquettishly, an utterly innocent appearance. As she turned her head, our eyes met, and I didn't miss the flicker of malice that flashed through her gaze. I saw Bai Yangling turn to say something to the Marquis, who nodded in agreement with a smile. In my past life, I'd merely wondered why there was a youth who looked so effeminate, Never imagining someone would defy convention by disguising herself as a man, the embroidered ball I threw was caught by the Marquis. The young Marquis handed the embroidered ball to Bai Yangling. "Didn't you want to play? Here, it's yours." Bai Yanling's eyes rolled mischievously as she pouted her lips, then tossed the ball right back into the Marquis' hands. "The bride is so beautiful, you must have taken a fancy to her. I don't want this stupid ball anyway. I hate you." The young Marquis was instantly dumbfounded, swearing to the heavens. He hastily explained, "I'd never fancy her, you're the most beautiful in my heart. I don't want it either." Then he tossed the embroidered ball to his rogue friends who had come with him. All of them already had proper wives at home, how dare they marry another? They'd risk having their legs broken by their elders. These scoundrels caught the ball but didn't want it either. So they threw it away again, passing it from one to another. They tossed it around playfully, fighting over it for fun, yet no one truly wanted it. In the end, it was shoved back into Bai Yanling's hands. Bai Yangling looked at the embroidered ball in her hand and suddenly came up with a brilliant idea. She walked to the doorway and, to everyone's surprise, threw the embroidered ball to a beggar at the door. She spoke with righteous indignation, delivering a speech about the equality of all people. "What's wrong with being a beggar? In my eyes, everyone under heaven is equal. No one has the right to look down on others. Surely this well-read young lady from a noble family shares the same belief." The young Marquis looked at her with admiration. Truly, she was the woman he loved, so unique and unafraid to challenge authority. Of course, I disagreed. This was utterly absurd. My father immediately called for the servants, intending to throw these spoiled brats out. Bai Yanling's face was full of grievance. "Was anything I said wrong? Just because you're a rich merchant's daughter with some silver at home, you look down on others. We all have two eyes and one mouth. What makes you nobler than anyone else? The embroidered ball landed in whose hands? You should marry that person. How can you go back on your word?" Bai Yangling merely got jostled accidentally by the arriving servants. Though completely unharmed, she immediately cried out in exaggerated pain. Seeing his beloved woman wronged, the young Marquis flew into a rage and revealed his noble status, forcibly compelling me to marry this beggar. Official rank outweighs everything, how much more so when my family merely had wealth but no official position whatsoever. I was immediately seized by imperial soldiers and forced to bow to heaven and earth with that filthy beggar. There was no escape. Afterwards, Bai Yangling gained a reputation for being brave and kind-hearted, marrying the young Marquis and becoming the mistress of the household. But in this lifetime, I curled my lips into a smirk. "Bai Yangling, didn't you say that whoever held the embroidered ball was the one I should marry? Let's see if you dare to remain so consistent and true to your word in this life." I tossed the embroidered ball downward. The ball followed a parabolic arc, destined to land in the arms of the handsome young master at the center. Yet just like in my past life, the Marquis leaped up and intercepted it midair. I curled my lips into a smile. He'd taken the bait. The young Marquis was just about to hand the embroidered ball to Bai Yangling to play with when his arm was suddenly grabbed. He turned to see none other than my father. Seizing the opportunity, father clung to the Marquis like a leech and wouldn't let go. "My dear son-in-law," he exclaimed. I had already conspired with father to make sure he firmly intercepted the first young master who touched the embroidered ball. The Marquis immediately pushed my father away. "Who's your son-in-law? I was just playing around with it." Bai Yangling, witnessing this scene from the side, grew furious. How shameless to come out and snatch a man like this. In a flurry of urgency, Bai Yangling rushed out to intervene, swiftly snatching the embroidered ball from the Marquis's hands and tossing it to a beggar at the gate. "You old fool, did you recognize his noble status and come here just to cause trouble? Look, even the beggar at the gate has the embroidered ball now. Why aren't calling him your son-in-law? Could it be you look down on him for being a beggar? Disgusting. And besides, we're just here to have some fun. Who wants your stupid embroidered ball? Get lost already." The other people in the venue who were competing for the embroidered ball watched the entire incident unfold from start to finish. Who is this guy? How dare he speak so arrogantly? He clearly knew this was a marriage selection by throwing the embroidered ball, yet he still snatched it and refuses to marry. What's the meaning of this? And besides, the young lady caught the embroidered ball. "Why are you so anxious, young master? Could it be that you have a penchant for men?" Most of these young masters my father invited are scholars, not only eloquent but also their words carry more weight than the average person's. Those who didn't snatch the embroidered ball clearly harbored greater resentment. The Marquis, accustomed to his arrogance, couldn't stand anyone contradicting him. I don't. His words were cut short when, the next second, he saw an unexpected figure. The Marchioness slowly walked in from the front courtyard. The Marquis was shocked. "Mother, what are you doing here?" Having heard everything, the Marchioness cast a cool glance at her son. "Mind your manners, since you clearly knew the young lady was throwing the embroidered ball to choose a husband. Why did you still go to snatch it? And why did you refuse after taking it? Is this how the Marquis's household has raised you?" The young Marquis's face flushed crimson with embarrassment. For he had always respected his strict mother. "Mother, it's not like that. I didn't mean to cause trouble, it's just..." The Dowager Marchioness's cane came down with a loud thud upon the floor. "This marriage proposal seems excellent to me. It's settled. We'll choose an auspicious day for the wedding. I won't tolerate any disobedience from you." Bai Yangling stood nearby, his face deathly pale, utterly confused about how things had escalated to this point. I smiled faintly and performed two perfectly measured bows, one to the Marquise and another to the young Marquis. The Marquise nodded slightly, her gaze toward me carrying a hint of approval. "No matter what, it's still better than that filthy thing next to my son." The young Marquis's face darkened, but in front of everyone, he dared not contradict his mother. He could only quietly lean closer and whisper to the Marchioness, "Mother, I truly don't wish to. I already have someone I love." Bai Yangling rushed forward immediately, forcibly separating me from the young Marquis. Not daring to openly oppose the Marchioness, she could only vent her resentment on me. "What's wrong with you? Can't you understand human speech? Didn't you hear the Marquis clearly say he's unwilling?" I remained completely unfazed and responded with ease. A daughter's marriage should be decided by her father, as decreed by parental authority and matchmaker's words. The meaning behind my words was crystal clear. Discussing this with me was pointless. If you've got the nerve, go try changing the Marchioness's mind instead. Unfortunately, Bai Yangling completely missed the subtext of my words, still thinking that convincing me alone would suffice. To put it bluntly, "You just want to steal my man. How can you be so shameless, rushing to be the other woman? Didn't you hear him say no?" The vulgarity of the words instantly made Lady Hu's face turn green with anger. Seeing his mother's expression change, young master who was startled and quickly pulled Bai Yangling behind him. "Mother," Bai Yangling didn't mean it. Mother Hu tapped her cane with a displeased expression. "The matter is settled then. Since the deed is done, one must have the courage to take responsibility. The Hu family will come to propose marriage on an auspicious day." I lowered my head and smiled faintly. It was I who had deliberately instructed Xiaohuan to lead Mother Hu inside, ensuring she heard everything at the doorway. In my past life, how bitterly I had resented them, daily inquiring about the Hu family's affairs. Only thus did I learn that Mother Hu had accompanied them on their journey south of the Yangtze, and Mother Hu happened to be precisely the rigidly conservative type. Rumors had long circulated about her extreme dissatisfaction with Bai Yanling's unconventional ways, persistently blocking her from entering the Hu family gates. Now that I've given Lady Hu such a perfect opportunity, she'll surely seize it to her advantage. No matter what, my status is still better than that by Yangling, a girl of unknown origins. On the night of the wedding, with the red bridal veil covering my head, I sat by the bed waiting for the Marquis to arrive. All I got was his cold notification. "It was my mother who insisted on bringing you into the Marquis's household. This was never my wish. I don't love you at all, nor will I ever share a chamber with you. You'll just have to live out your days here in loneliness. Don't even think about laying a finger on me." I nodded obediently, offering no rebuttal whatsoever. "I know you and Miss Bai Yangling are deeply in love, but I'm just a girl too. With parents' orders and matchmakers' words, I won't stand between you and Miss Yangling. I would never compete with Bai Yangling for you. I'll just properly manage the Marquis's household and fulfill my duties without disturbing you and Miss Yangling." Seeing me so obedient, the Marquis actually didn't know how to vent his anger. Deprived of his reason to slam the door and leave, he could only sit sulkily in the farthest corner of the room. At this moment, Bai Yanling's personal maid burst in. "Marquis, Miss Bai Yangling seems to have a fever and can't sleep in her room." The Marquis looked tense and immediately stood up to leave. Not even glancing at me on the bed, I coldly lifted the bridal veil, my eyes filled with unconcealed hatred, love and affection. "All bullshit. In this lifetime, I swear to make you two wretched lovers suffer a fate worse than death." Early the next morning after the wedding, I needed to serve tea to the Marquise. The Marquise held my hand with deep sympathy. She already knew about the incident last night when the young Marquis had been abducted. "Bring that Bai Yangling here at once. How dare she show such disrespect without even entering our doors?" Of course, I couldn't let the Marquise do that. What I wanted was simply her guilt. "Mother, since the young Marquis is happy, let him be. The husband guides the wife. I don't wish for you to feel displeased with him on my account." The Marchioness took my hand, comforting me. "It's all right. You are now the mistress of the Marquis household, and you must establish the rules. In the future, if Xiao behaves immaturely, I hope you'll be patient with him." I smiled gently. How could my husband ever be immature? He is utterly sincere and endearing. In time, he will surely grow more mature and considerate of you. "Mother." At these words, the Marchioness looked at me with increasing approval. She had only hoped for a gentle and virtuous daughter-in-law, never expecting one so considerate and sensible. Lady who immediately declared, "Fetch the household keys for the rear courtyard. From now on, the management of the rear courtyard will be entrusted to the mistress, Nanny Wang. You shall assist her by her side." I quickly waved my hands in refusal. "Mother, I've just entered the household. It's still too early. I really shouldn't." Lady who insisted on pressing the household keys into my hands, I lowered my head, secretly delighted. The crucial piece of my plan was now secured. Suddenly, the young Marquis burst into the room, snatched the key from my hand, and threw it violently to the ground. "You hypocritical woman, you promised not to interfere, yet you came to tattle on the very next day." The Marchioness trembled with rage. "You unfilial son, don't you even know the custom of serving tea to your parents-in-law on the second day of marriage? She came to show filial respect for me on your behalf." The young Marquis stiffened his neck defiantly. "Then she must have spoken ill of Bai Yangling too. Someone just advised me not to punish that vixen of yours and to give you more time. Where did all your scholarly virtues go? Is this how your teacher taught you?" The young Marquis looked at me with suspicion. After how he treated her last night, she wasn't even angry. I kept my head bowed the entire time, silently massaging the Marchioness's shoulders without uttering a single word in my defense. The young Marquis was her son. She could scold him all she wanted, but it wouldn't be proper for me to speak ill of him in any way. A cold laugh rose in my heart. Mother and son were always in the same boat. Bai Yangling, who had thought the position of the Marquis's wife was as certain as nails on a board, was naturally furious when I snatched it away for no apparent reason. No sooner had I returned to my room than Bai Yangling barged in uninvited. Without even a greeting, she crossed her legs and plopped herself down on the main seat with brazen audacity. My personal maid was about to step forward and slap her twice, but I stopped her with a meaningful glance. It was probably on their wedding night when Bai Yangling effortlessly stole the Marquis from me, giving her immense confidence. Bai Yangling looked at me with disdain. "If you know what's good for you, you should quickly divorce and leave on your own. Stop clinging to another woman's man. There are plenty of men in the world. Why must you steal mine? You ancient women only know how to compete for men." She believed that as a time traveler, she was far more noble than these feudal women. I was puzzled. What is divorce, and what is this competing for men? Bai Yangling rolled her eyes and explained impatiently, "I'm telling you to get away from the Marquis and go back to your own home. Stop clinging to my man. You're knowingly being the other woman. Do you even realize you're a homewrecker? You deserve to be drowned in a pig cage." I smiled faintly, but my husband and I were properly matched when I caught the embroidered ball. I entered his household through a legitimate marriage. Just mentioning this made Bai Yangling gnash her teeth in anger. She had only wanted the young Marquis to catch the embroidered ball for her amusement, who actually intended to marry her. If the Marquis's mother hadn't walked in just then, she would have already slapped that shameless woman who dared steal her man. Who could have imagined things would turn out this way? Bai Yangling was filled with bitter regret. She stomped her feet in fury. "I knew the Marquis first. You came later. You're shameless. How did your parents raise you? You're just feudal remnants, can't you see the Marquis doesn't want your stupid embroidered ball? You should have married that beggar who also touched the ball. I think you're just a gold digger. I raised an eyebrow. And what does the lady propose? Bai Yangling stood with her hands on her hips, looking down at me condescendingly. You should get out right now. Let me tell you something, just because you're married doesn't mean you can't get divorced. Since you already know the Marquis doesn't love you, you should obediently step aside and leave the Marquis's estate. Everything you eat and use now belongs to my husband. Have you no shame? Can't you support yourself and be independent? I lowered my eyes and remained silent. Forcing a defenseless woman to abandon the Marquis's estate, how cruel. Since that's the case, the final method I'll use against her is only what she deserves. Oh, but everything I eat and use now was brought from my family's home. For example, this golden Nanmu bed, this porcelain. Every item in this room was bought by my father and belongs to my dowry. None of it was paid for by the young Marquis. As for you, miss, are the clothes you wear and the food you eat truly your own? Bai Yangling grew furious, her gaze turning even more hostile. What's wrong with me using my husband's things? His are mine, and what's there to be proud of with your dowry? Who knows where that money came from? I bet your father embezzled it from the people's hard-earned wealth. I laughed. What a fine example of self-reliance and independence, seeing she couldn't out-argue me. A flash of malice crossed Bai Yanling's eyes as a scheme took shape in her mind. She suddenly grabbed the vase beside me, intending to smash it and frame me for the damage, but when she tried to lift it, she found the base firmly glued in place. Her face froze in shock. She immediately shifted her target, reaching for the seat below, only to find it firmly stuck to the ground. Bai Yangling, gritting her teeth, she actually tried to climb over the table to hit me, without changing my expression. I pulled out a wooden shield from below and blocked her path. When the young Marquis rushed in anxiously, all he saw was Bai Yangling lunging at me in a scuffle, while I dodged behind a wooden shield. The moment Bai Yangling spotted the young Marquis, she immediately stopped her chasing and attacking, throwing herself into his arms instead. Husband Tilda, she's clinging to you and refusing to leave the Marquis's residence. I was just teaching her a lesson for you. The Marquis fell silent. He grew up with a classical education, so no matter how biased he was towards Bai Yangling or how much he disliked me, he still needed a reason to punish me, yet he couldn't find any excuse at all, since I hadn't even laid a finger on Bai Yangling, perhaps afraid that I might beg him for justice. The young Marquis didn't even give me a chance to speak, hastily leaving with Bai Yangling in tow. As Bai Yangling departed, she shot me a smug look. Now you know your place. He loves me, not you. Winter is gradually setting in, and the weather grows colder day by day. As the mistress of the Marquis's household, even the maidservants could clearly read the situation. When they encountered Bai Yangling, who had neither power nor status yet still lingered in the household, they naturally didn't hold back their contempt. Why is she still wearing summer clothes in such cold weather? Could it be that the Marquis? Sure, you mustn't say such things. How could the Marquis possibly be unwilling to buy clothes for the young lady? Absolutely impossible. Tilda. Bai Yangling overheard this conversation and was furious. How dare these clueless maids question her legendary love with the Marquis? She immediately scolded all those maids. But Bai Yangling herself had no money of her own. She was neither a concubine nor a maid in the mansion, so naturally she received no regular allowance. All her food, clothing, and daily necessities in the Marquis's residence were provided by the Marquis himself. Before I entered the household, all her shopping expenses for clothes were directly charged to the Marquis's account. But now that I'm in charge of managing the household, I've long since revoked the young Marquis's unlimited spending privileges. Everything follows the rules. The Marquis receives his fixed monthly allowance, not a penny more or less. If he wants extra, he has to apply to the Marchioness himself. So when Bai Yangling couldn't charge her purchases to the account, she immediately went to complain to the Marquis. What kind of husband are you? I can't even buy new clothes anymore. The Marquis fell silent. His allowance was also limited, and being accustomed to lavish spending, he had no extra silver left. Next month. All right, Yangling. Bai Yangling grew furious, gripping the Marquis's collar tightly. Why should I wait? That homewrecker you married, who took my place, is draped in gold and silver, while I don't even have a new dress. Are you even a man? The The Marquis's face burned red, but he still patiently tried to explain. After all, he truly loved this woman. No, I didn't buy it for her. My monthly allowance is already spent this month. There's nothing left. Actually, there was more available. He just needed to ask the dowager. But as a grown man, he couldn't bring himself to make such a request. If he were to ask, it would have to be done secretly. Not long after, Bai Yangling once again happened to overhear the maids gossiping in private. "Your new dress is truly beautiful. The mistress is so kind. She gave each of us maids one." "Hush, don't let Bai Yangling hear that. She's clinging to the household without any status and didn't get a new dress. Have you seen her? Still wearing summer clothes. Ha 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 ha. Why won't she agree to be a concubine? Just putting on airs of purity tilde. And she claims she doesn't rely on men. Look at her now, without our Marquis's help, she can't even afford proper clothes." Bai Yangling flew into a rage and immediately went to confront the Marquis. She kicked open the study door with one furious stomp. The young Marquis stared at her in shock. What now?" Bai Yangling gritted her teeth. "Give me silver. I'm starting a business." "What kind of business?" "I'm opening a shop, a lingerie store, to give all the oppressed women in this world the freedom of proper undergarments. We'll be rolling in wealth, and you'll never have to kowtow to that woman again. We'll spend as much as we damn well please." The young Marquis looked embarrassed. "Didn't we agree it would be next month?" Bai Yangling tore several books from the Marquis's study with a rustling sound, leaving the young Marquis utterly dumbfounded. "No, I can't let others outdo me. How about I help you sell these books? They're just feudal relics anyway, bound to be obsolete sooner or later." The Marquis was horrified. "Absolutely not. I'll find a solution for you right away." I was holding a warming brazier in my room when the Marquis entered and immediately dismissed all the maids around me. I raised an eyebrow and smiled at him. "What brings you here, my lord?" The young Marquis fidgeted awkwardly. "About that incident last time, Bai Yangling was somewhat at fault." "My lord, you may speak plainly if you have something to say." The young Marquis closed his eyes, not daring to look at me. "Can we withdraw some silver?" I didn't ask the Marquis what he needed the money for, but simply handed him the note directly. With all the maids, old nannies, and servants in the mansion under my control, of course I knew what the Marquis intended to do with that money. And who's to say those maids' conversations weren't deliberately arranged for Bai Yangling to overhear? I heard Bai Yangling was going to start some kind of business. He declared he wanted to make undergarments for all ancient women. After stepping out, I nearly spat out the tea in my mouth. The Marquis didn't ask me anything, but the money I gave him was withdrawn from the bank. If he loses it, it won't be on my head, it all falls on the Marquis to bear. I then let Lady Who discover everything naturally, ensuring the Marquis could never take another penny from the Who residence. As for whether Bai Yanling's business venture would ultimately succeed, making ancient women wear so-called intimate undergarments would likely cost the Marquis his current official position. Faced with the earnest pleas of the Marquis's personal attendant, Bai Yangling adopted the strategy of "I won't listen. I won't listen. You understand nothing. This is called riding the wave of the times. The market is completely untapped right now. If we pour all our silver into it and dominate the market, we'll get thousands of times the return." Before her transmigration, she had been a proper university student who'd listened to countless entrepreneurial stories from industry giants online. Which of those titans hadn't splurged recklessly in the early stages? Bai Yangling looked at the servant with disdain. "I bet you're from that mistress's side, aren't you? Can't stand to see me succeed." When she achieves success in her career, who would dare say she relied on men? By then, the first thing she'll do is kick this lackey out of the Marquis's estate. What a fool. Unable to read the situation, Bai Yanling's gaze toward the lackey grew increasingly venomous, and the lackey immediately fell silent. Meanwhile, the Marquis stood by with a doting smile. After all, the money was taken from his wife's purse, so spending it all didn't matter, just as Miss Yangling said. As soon as the Marquis turned to leave, I immediately called for Xiaohuan. "Go and bring over Miss Han Qinsang from the Han Mansion in Jiangnan. I heard her parents just passed away, and she's all alone and helpless. As the madam of this household, I should take good care of my husband's little cousin." I had heard a little about this little cousin's combat prowess in my previous life. She almost broke up Bai Yangling and the young Marquis, Bai Yanling's insults were truly vile. Something about, what was it called, a tomboy tea or something. Alas, in the end she miscalculated by just one move and had to withdraw in bitter regret. This lifetime, let me give her that final push. Instead of quietly opening her shop, Bai Yanling made a huge spectacle of it, ensuring the entire capital knew she was launching a lingerie store. Everyone knows her backer is the young Marquis. Those men immediately sent their wives to show support, yet unexpectedly, the women all returned in shock. Such impropriety, husband, I dare not wear this, it's too shameful. What decent person would do such things? That Bai Yanling, she's even promoting it personally in the shop, utterly shameless. No wonder the old madam dares not speak of letting her through the door. TSK. Now, who in the capital hasn't heard of Bai Yanling's scandalous reputation? Even the Marquis was impeached before the emperor, his reputation in tatters. In the end, it was the old madam who used her status as a titled noblewoman to intervene, managing to preserve the young Marquis's current official position. The matter concluded with him being confined to his home for 3 months. Coincidentally, the money-lender brought the promissory note to Sue at the Marquis's residence, turning the Marquise's face green with anger. She naturally didn't know that the note was what I had given to the young Marquis. Thinking instead that he had borrowed the money himself after all, the name field clearly stated the young Marquis's name. Even if the young Marquis tried to turn the tables on me, I had ways to deal with it, just as I expected. The young Marquis could no longer take any silver from the estate beyond his fixed allowance. The Marquis's mother entrusted me with full authority over the family assets. You're so thoughtful. Don't let my son lose his head and have his silver swindled away by some vixen. I smiled in response. Don't worry, mother, I'll certainly help my husband properly. Because of this matter, the young Marquis and Bai Yanling had a bit of a falling out. Bai Yanling argued vehemently, it's these ancient women who are too feudal, it's not my fault. Who could have guessed they'd be so stubborn? No matter how much I explained, they just wouldn't listen. In the end, the young Marquis softened his heart and even considered applying for some extra silver to subsidize Bai Yanling's clothing expenses. The Marquis's mother outright refused and even ordered me not to indulge the Marquis's whims. Naturally, I complied. Rumor has it that in the end, because of the clothing incident, Bai Yanling smashed all the antique vases in the young Marquis's room. Coincidentally, with the Marquis under house arrest and unable to go anywhere, and Bai Yanling having just quarreled with him, he was in a particularly gloomy mood. I took the opportunity to have Xiao Huan bring my little cousin into the manor. I arranged for her to stay in the courtyard right next to the young Marquis's, just a short walk away. The little cousin had lived in the Marquis's residence for a time during her childhood, and could be said to have been the young Marquis's childhood sweetheart. As children, the two often played in the mud together, slinging their arms over each other's shoulders as they went off to play. In the young Marquis's heart, he had always regarded his little cousin as one of the boys. The only question was whether Bai Yanling could accept her man having a so-called brother like this. That day, Bai Yanling was resting in the pavilion as usual. When he looked up, he saw a beautiful, unmarried maiden walking along the path. Not only that, but the young Marquis was standing right beside her. The two were playfully teasing each other, and the young Marquis was laughing unusually joyfully. They were even slinging their arms over each other's shoulders. The young Marquis's hand had actually landed right on the maiden's shoulder. Then, the young Marquis patted the girl's shoulder and left by another path. Bai Yanling instantly flew into a rage and stormed up to the girl. Who are you? The cousin smiled faintly. I am the Marquis's cousin, here to seek refuge at the Marquis's residence. White Smoke Ling looked down at her with disdain. Oh, so you're here to freeload. What were you doing touching my man just now? Have you no shame? The cousin lady snorted coldly. I wondered who it was. So you're that beggar the household talks about, the one who freeloads and refuses to leave. At least I'm the Marquis's cousin. And what kind of whore are you? Popping up out of nowhere. White Smoke Ling's expression darkened. You're talking nonsense. We're in love. The Marquis is my man, what would you know? Shameless homewrecker. I see right through you. You've got your eyes on the Marquis, don't you? To everyone's surprise, the cousin lady nodded affirmatively. In love? Then why aren't you the mistress of the house? How laughable. And what if I do have my eyes on the Marquis? let me tell you. In terms of seniority, we grew up together since childhood. My connection with him predates yours by far. I'm definitely entering this Marquis's residence, and your man is mine now, Tilda. Bai Yangling was so furious that she directly slapped the young lady. The young lady had been raised as a boy since childhood and naturally wasn't afraid, but she faintly heard footsteps from the corner of the wall. Seizing the moment, she deliberately fell backward into the lotus pond. Just as the young Marquis returned, he witnessed Bai Yangling pushing someone. Horrified, he immediately prepared to jump in and rescue her. Bai Yanling's face twisted with jealousy as she clung stubbornly to the young Marquis. Why did you go down to save her? She'll definitely take advantage of this and force you to marry her. I've seen plenty of these scheming whores. Bai Yangling wrapped herself around the young Marquis like a vine, arms and legs entangled, leaving him no choice but to order the maids to quickly rescue the girl from the water. The Marquis was truly furious this time. Why did you push her? Tears welled up in Bai Yanling's eyes. You're scolding me because of that wretched woman. The Marquis was frantic. Really, there isn't. The problem is she's my cousin. She's from a noble family. If anything happens, I can't protect you at all. Bai Yangling was utterly aggrieved. She insulted me first. She even said she wanted to marry you. She's trying to steal you away. The young lady who had just climbed ashore awkwardly opened her mouth to explain. Miss, perhaps you've misunderstood. I'm already betrothed. How could I possibly? At this moment, the maids also chimed in with their explanations. That's right, miss. You were the one who pushed the guest into the water the moment you arrived. Before she could even say a word, Bai Yangling was shocked. How dare you lie? She clearly said she wanted to steal my man, and called me a whore.